Darkness kills, destroys the will. Find a spark, make hearts thrill. Hear the tales of time so grim. Shine a light, don't let it dim. Heather Brown, downtown, bound. True crime story she's found. In the shadows, secret stay. Need a light that finds the way.
Welcome to the next episode of Defeating the Darkness, True Crime Stories with Downtown Heather Brown. That's me, your host. I'm a former homicide and sexual assault prosecutor here in California, and I bring on amazing people onto the show to basically talk about amazing things they're doing to bring light to people in the darkest places. And today with us, we have probably my all-time favorite guest. And I know I say that all the time, but I really, really mean it this time, because today we have with us the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Tom Brown, FBI. Downtown Tom Brown, right?
Downtown Heather Brown.
In the flesh. The natives are getting restless. They're like, when are you going to have your husband on?
I didn't think I was going to make the cut. I thought maybe I was going to be kept on the sidelines, but thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I've been trying to hide you for years and let nobody think that I'm actually married, but I am.
I'm not on many of your social media sites.
Well, for the longest time, I couldn't put you on social media, right? Do you remember that? Like, you were an FBI agent? Aren't you guys supposed to be on the DL? Like, that's kind of what I thought.
Sort of, yeah. I just told you that.
Right?
But no, I wasn't a big social media guy. Still not.
Still not?
Not on too much social media, but thank you for having me.
Well, you are now. You realize you're going to be on.
I'm on a podcast.
You are. Is this your first ever podcast?
I believe it is.
Wow.
I believe it is.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't know, my husband, Tom Brown, I actually don't think I've ever just called him Tom. I, from day one, have called him Tom Brown FBI, and now his nickname is Tom Brown, and most of the people who know him call him Tom Brown as well. So, yes, we have been married for many, many years now. How many years have we been married? This is a trick.
This is a test?
Yes.
Well, I think we got married in November of 2003. So if I'm correct in my math, 21 years of marriage.
Wow.
Of wedded bliss.
Some people get less time for murder.
That's what I've heard, and I've had a few people warn me, to sleep with my eyes open, but
both of them or just one? I think you can close one by now.
I do close them.
Okay, good.
21 years.
21 years. Okay, so you and I can actually start this podcast saying that we did not meet in a bar.
We did not meet in a bar.
I have met a lot of the guests on the podcast in bars, but you are not one of those people.
I don't frequent the bars as often as you do, so we did not meet there. I was fortunate that you weren't in a bar at the time that we met.
Yes, you were. So, do you want to tell the listeners how we met? Because I know they're just dying to know.
Well, we met sort of through work.
Mm-hmm.
I met one of our close friends, RJ Garwood, and during a police and fire competition back in 2001. And he started dating one of your close friends. And then they introduced us together, and we started dating, and subsequently we got married after they got married.
We did. All right. Well, you're missing the best part of the story. No offense. But so your buddy RJ and you were going to a competition. You just glossed over the whole reason that I wanted to marry you. Hello. Aside from your, dashing good looks, doesn't he look like George Clooney, but a younger, more handsome version? And he's nowhere near as liberal, at least I hope not. Anyway.
Or as rich.
Yeah, that either. But you're just as handsome. And
thank you.
You're welcome.
I try to keep up with you.
So you were competing in the police Olympics. And listen, this is not for the faint-hearted. So tell the listeners what the Police Olympics is so they realize what a badass you are when I tell them that you won the gold medal the day I met you.
Well, the Police Olympics is a big sporting event, and it's got every type of competition from, you start with the A's, archery, badminton, swimming, track and field, biathlons, triathlons, all the different sporting events. And it's for police and fire officials that, kind of a motivation to keep in shape. And one of the events that they have, that was actually started by some officers with the Los Angeles Police Department, their Police Athletic League, an individual named Larry Moore, was called the Toughest Competitor Alive. And it was originally called the Toughest Cop Alive. And then when it joined in with the fire department for the games, it's police and fire. So now it's Toughest Competitor Alive. And it's a kind of a bastardized decathlon type scoring events, 8 events in one day, has a 5K run, and it finishes with an obstacle course, and it's got swimming, weightlifting, pull-ups, rope climb, those type of events.
Shot put,
all in one day, 8 events. And,
so one person have to do all 8 events in one day.
Yes.
Run a 5K.
Yeah, and they do have a mixed doubles where you can compete in 4 of the events with a partner of the opposite sex, and they also have a team event where you can have 4 individuals competing in 2 of each of the events. And the hardest one, obviously, is the individual, because you've got to be able to run a 5K, throw a shot put, and bench press, and be able to swim and kind of combine all those.
How far do you have
things.
to swim?
It's just 100 meters. It's a sprint.
That seems like a long way, no?
For some people who are not swimmers, it's a long way.
That would be me.
It's kind of the death knell for a couple of the competitors in there who are good athletes, but not strong swimmers. They don't get a lot of points out of that event sometimes.
And you have to do the bench press. And then the one that I have to tell you I was most impressed with is the rope climb. So there's this rope climb in a gymnasium, and they have to start from a seated position. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you will.
Sitting on the floor.
Yes, sitting on the floor of a gymnasium. And you know how high the ceilings are? And there's a rope that's coming down from the ceiling. And you have to, without using your legs, upper body strength only, climb to the top of this rope.
It's 20 feet.
And touch a little
touch plate, and that stops your time. And then you can wrap your legs and come down at a slow pace.
Or just throw yourself on the ground.
Yeah, I've seen a few people slide down the rope. They kind of lost their grip, and they get road rash on their hands and tear off calluses and stuff. It's tough, but it is the toughest event, and not everybody makes it up the rope. And you can still score well in the other events, but if you get up the rope and you get some points, it certainly helps in the competition. And I will throw an aside. Maybe you were going to mention it, but. I got it up the rope again in a competition. They do have age groups, so you don't have to go against the same individuals. But I was able to make it up the rope I think the year before COVID hit, so about 4 or 5 years ago, in my mid to late 50s. That was the last time I made it up. And you didn't realize how old I was.
Yes, it's not easy.
It's not.
Okay, but when I met you, you were in your 30s. You were 39. If I recall, because you were competing in the 30 to 39 age group.
I was competing in the open age group because, and anybody can compete in the open. I was unable to compete on the day that my age group was competing.
Oh, I didn't realize. So you were running against, you were going up against the youngsters?
I believe so. I could be wrong on that. One of the years I did.
He was 30 to 39.
I was 39 in the 30 to 39.
You were 39 in the 30 to 39. Yeah. So you were going up against 30-year-old firemen and cops and law enforcement of all kind and competing in this. And he won the gold medal. And that was the day I met him. So my girlfriend said, hey, that guy, that RJ, my girlfriend Jennifer, said, and her then boyfriend RJ wants to set you up with his competing.
I may have beat RJ that day.
You might have. He did take bronze. He took a medal.
He got a medal. A medal. It wasn't gold.
Yes, but not everyone can do all of those events as well as you did. No offense, but you weren't like spectacular at any one event.
No.
But you were really good at all of them.
I was pretty good at all of them. So I didn't win the 5K, or I didn't bench the most. There was guys that were benching over 400 pounds. But they weren't running a great 5K or swimming very well. So,
right. The beefcakes can't necessarily run that fast.
Exactly. That's why I enjoyed that event for me. I could be good overall, athletic, and compete in each of the events, score high enough to get enough points to win the overall.
So you won the gold medal.
I won the gold medal.
And it wasn't the first time he won the gold medal. He's being very shy and coy, if that's a word for you. You have actually won the gold medal 11 times in a row.
I had a streak of a number of years where I won my age group finished first or second in my age group and finished in the top 2 or 3 in the overall. As I started getting older, the overall title is you don't get any extra medals or anything like that, but it's always nice to be one of the top scorers, especially against the younger guys.
Yeah. And then you came in 3rd in the World Games in Australia.
I medaled in Australia. I've got I think RJ and we met in Indianapolis. I don't think I medaled in Indianapolis. I think I got fifth place there. Sorry. So that's why I got in shape. That's why I got in shape for the following year, which was in Santa Ana, where we met.
Mm-hmm. So we met and we've been together ever since. Right. Well, our first date, you took me to a baseball game of yours, a softball game. It was men's softball.
But he did in a beer league, a men's slow pitch softball beer league.
Except we don't drink beer.
Well, we go out for pizza and beer afterwards, and I occasionally had a beer.
Okay.
Didn't drink it while we were playing. I was still in a competitive mode at that time. Now not so competitive.
But that night that I went to watch your softball game, it was like home run. I love that you were so competitive and a winner. Right? I was pretty competitive back then, and I enjoyed. I would run out, when I would hustle, you'd be running and sprinting. Now it's straight beer league for me if I ever get out there. You're like, I'll just stick to the beer, watch you guys play.
Exactly.
All right, so let's see. Well, we didn't just come here to talk about our marriage or how we met. I brought you on here to talk about your amazing career and all the wonderful things that you've done over the years. And besides marry me,
can we talk about something while we were dating?
Oh dear God!
So while we were dating, you called me up one time from in the middle of the day, and I answered it, and we're just talking, and I'd spent some time in the Marine Corps, FBI shooting range and stuff like that. So I have a little bit of hearing loss, and you started talking very softly, and I'm like, can you speak up? I can't hear you. And you're like, I can't speak up. I'm in court. And I was like, you're in court? And I come from the federal realm of federal courthouses where the judges strict control of the courtroom. You can't even look at the person next to you while you're in a courtroom with them not calling you out and kicking you out of the courtroom. And you told me I can't talk because I'm at counsel table and the judge is on the bench and you're on your cell phone talking to me.
It wasn't a cell phone. It was actually the phone at the...
It was a phone at the counsel table?
Yeah, it was counsel
maybe cell phones didn't exist back then.
Hey, ouch.
No, they did.
I'm not as old as you.
I think you've had the same number since then.
I'm the young one in the relationship.
I only had a work phone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was calling you from court.
You were calling me from court, and you said, or you were talking softly, and I was just amazed that you could speak to somebody else and talk on the phone in the middle of court. And afterwards, we had a conversation, and you told me, well, I'm in court all day long, and like I need to be able to talk and schedule my nail appointments, schedule my massages, do all my business while I'm in court. And
well, it's true. I'm there all day, every day.
So I knew that, as I learned what a phenomenal prosecutor you were and what an advocate for the people and now your clients, but I learned that you would not have ever survived in federal court.
Never. No, they're really strict in federal court. They don't even let you move from the podium. I can barely sit here without whacking the microphone the whole time. I can't talk without my hands, and they expect you to be like...
It's a very sterile environment.
Super boring. Total snooze fest, boring, right?
It is.
Yeah, they even like dictate what you're allowed to respond while you're in.
I've been kicked out of federal court several times.
Yeah, if you've been kicked out, I'm totally getting thrown out and probably put in the pokey.
I got kicked out one time while I was in the audience waiting for back in the bench area in the gallery, waiting to just, I think, return a search warrant or something. And the judge was on the bench handling a different matter, and my pager went off, and it was on vibrate. And this was back in the pager days for some of the younger folks who don't remember those. And I just leaned to the person next to me who I was there with, and I said, I'll be right back. I have to go make a call because I was on the SWAT team at the time. And my pager, and I just, the judge, obviously from where he was at, didn't hear the vibrating on the pager, but he just saw me lean over and go, I'll be right back. And he's kicked me out of there.
You were like, I was leaving anyway. I got to take a call.
Called me out while he was on the bench dealing with another matter, and then told me to get out of there.
Wow, you're such a rebel. You're
getting in
trouble.
So you would not have done well in federal court.
I would not have. Okay, so for our listeners who don't know, because now they've uncovered that Tom Brown, FBI, is my husband. But more importantly, well, not more importantly, it's probably pretty important, but just as importantly is your illustrious career. So let's talk about your career, because obviously I know a lot about you, and I'm not going to say everything because you never know everything about somebody.
There's some things, if I told you,
you'd have to kill me?
Maybe. No.
So please put me out of my misery. My marriage is hell. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, sorry. You're here listening.
I am. I'm not just, you're not just saying this to another guest on your
You do know that I talk tons of trash about you sometimes.
I've heard that.
Okay.
I sometimes get text messages and calls from people.
No, you don't.
On occasion, I do.
Do you? That's funny. One time. Okay, so you are an FBI agent. I think that's clear from the fact I call you Tom Brown FBI, right? Well,
Yes.
You're not now because you're retired.
I am retired.
But prior to retirement, living in the lap of luxury with your wife still working, you were an FBI agent. And prior to that, you were in the Marines.
That is correct.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that. What got you to the FBI? Like, how'd you get that? How'd you start that? Were you a little kid and you thought, I want to be an FBI agent?
Not at all. Not at all. I was in the Marine Corps. I was an infantry officer. It was in the 80s. It was in the 80s. It was a while back. Not as much stuff going on as the last 20 years or so for the Marine Corps. I had done a couple of deployments to Japan, Okinawa, Philippines and stuff. And then I got assigned to recruiting duty as the operations officer, recruiting station in Pittsburgh. And while I was there, I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in or not in the Marine Corps. And I had a good friend of mine who I met in the Marine Corps, had just gotten out of the Marine Corps and joined the FBI. And that's our buddy, Bob Hunt. And Bob and I were talking, and he's like, hey, did you ever think about the FBI? And honestly, I had not ever thought about a law enforcement career. And as luck would have it, the recruiting office in Pittsburgh was on the 15th floor of the federal building in downtown Pittsburgh. And the FBI office was on the 13th floor. So I only had to go down 2 floors to go down and ask somebody a question. Hey, what do you got to do to get hired here? And so I went down and talked to some of the folks, started my application process. It wasn't online like it is today. And everything went really quickly for me because anytime they needed something from me, needed fingerprints, needed me to pee in a bottle, whatever it was that they needed from me, they.
Is it a bottle or is it a cup?
It's a cup. It's a cup.
Okay. But you were there to do it.
I was there to do it within minutes. So my processing went pretty quickly because the hiring process is similar to today. It usually takes 18 months or more to go through the entire process, including your background investigation. And,
oh, wow.
And I got through mine in about half that time.
So they didn't uncover anything bad about you?
No,
Wow.
Not that they told me.
You were pretty straight and narrow, huh?
Yeah, I was pretty straight and narrow. Still am.
I know.
Despite your attempts of corrupting me.
He's still on the straight and narrow.
Yes.
So it doesn't even take the tags off the pillows in our house.
Against penalty of law and all that stuff.
I think once you buy them, you're allowed to take. I keep telling him, once you buy the pillows, you're allowed to cut the tags off. He doesn't believe me. So, okay, when you were in the FBI, you had to go through, I'm assuming, some training? Did they just hire any old schmo off the street?
No training at all. They give you a gun and a badge and say, go ahead and investigate federal violations of federal crime. And that's it.
So this training's at Quantico in Virginia.
The training academy is at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. It's actually on a Marine Corps base, so I'd previously been there.
Oh.
It's got its own plot of land within the Marine Corps base.
Let's back up to the Marines for a second. So you're in the Marines for 5 years. Before you get to recruiting duty in Pennsylvania, you, did you grew up in Pennsylvania, yeah?
I grew up in Pennsylvania.
I did know that. So it's kind of hard to pretend like I don't know all the answers to these questions. But when you were in Pennsylvania, what school did you attend?
I attended Ritter Elementary School. I think you were looking for my college, correct?
Yes.
I attended Penn State. Now, I'm not sure when this is going to air.
And you love Penn State.
Love Penn State.
Not only are you a fan of Penn State now, but when you were going there, can I tell him? This is a funny fact about Tom Brown, the FBI, that nobody knows, that I was kind of shocked to learn about, but you were, in fact, a cheerleader at Penn State, weren't you?
I was. I wasn't good enough to be on the football team, so I wanted to be down on the field. I had a little, I was athletic. I was actually a springboard diver in high school, and so I could do some of the gymnastics type activities there. I wasn't certainly good enough to be on any of the school teams for those, but so I ended up just 1 year doing on the cheerleading squad my senior year.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was just 1 year. But you're the guys that are tossing the girls up in the air and catching them.
Yes.
Which I'll just tell our listeners led to him routinely throwing our children in the air in little gymnastic moves, as well as our friends' children in the air.
I did not drop anybody.
You didn't. Hope might have dropped.
I have been accused, but I did not drop any children.
No, you didn't drop any children. Okay, so you were a cheerleader, you're a Marine, you're a badass, you won all these competitions.
And best of all, I married you.
Oh, I paid him to say that. Okay, so but after the Marines, right, you get this gig at the FBI and you go to Quantico, which you've been attending once before at the Marines, right?
Yes.
And what's that like there? Tell the listeners what it's like at Quantico. Is it like in the
for
movies?
FBI Academy, and it's similar nowadays. Obviously, they've upgraded it a little bit, but it's a college campus type environment. So they basically break down the training into three parts. It's not like a boot camp for the military or a police academy. It's not a stress academy. It's more of I would say a gentleman's type of academy. But the pressure is put on by yourself. The academic level, because a lot of people are coming in from different backgrounds and don't have law degrees and stuff. And so you're learning, constitutional law, search and seizure, what you could do. And then you're learning about the individual types of cases that you're going to be working, whether it be fraud matters, those type of things. So you have the academic portion. It's probably a graduate level style academics, and the standards are pretty high. You've got to get like 85 or above on each of the tests. And that's where, so some people, struggle on that. And then you have the other two parts of the three-part equation are the fitness, defensive tactics, arrest control techniques, passing the fitness standards. There's a physical fitness test that you have to pass. It's changed over the years, but they still have pretty good standards that
you have to run and push-ups.
You have to run, pull-ups. I think now they've changed some of the things, sit-ups. Those are the primary parts of the fitness test. But then you also have the physical arrest control techniques, handcuffing, ground fighting, grappling with a resistant subject, that type of thing. And then you have the firearms portion. So some people, struggle on the firearms part. Some people aren't quite as strong on the physical aspects, and some people struggle on the academic aspect. Again, most of that stuff came pretty easily for me. So it wasn't a stressful time for me. It was, I was able to just, enjoy my time there and, not worry about not passing one of the events. I mean, I wasn't the top academic, and I wasn't the top fitness, although there was about 4 or 5 of us that were competing for the top fitness award, and I was not the one who individually got it.
What?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
You're fired.
But we had some really good folks. One of the things I remember, and my first memory of the academy, I think there were 44 new agents in my class, and the first thing you do is you just start. Everybody stands up and introduce themselves, where you went to college, what you've been doing since then. The average age at the academy is probably close to 30. So it's not a first career for anybody. They're prior military, as I was coming out 5 years out of Marine Corps, prior police officers, prior prosecutors, or attorneys, not necessarily just prosecutors, all kinds of different backgrounds. And people would stand up, say where they went to school, what they did. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is an impressive group of people. And I noticed that throughout the rest of my career. It's really I was fortunate. It gets a lot of talented people. As with any organization, you have your 10% that you wonder how they slip through the cracks. And sometimes when you're sitting there and you're listening to people, you're looking around and you're like, I think maybe I might be that 10%. You're thinking, how did I get hired out of this group? But
oh God.
But then sometimes, then you see them do something and you're like, okay, they're the 10%. I'm still good. But no, it was an impressive group of people that I got to work, go through the academy with. And then, the standards are still, they've changed. They're coming in with obviously different backgrounds, the social media, the technology that the folks are coming in through with their backgrounds, and how they approach things is a little bit different, but there's still a lot of really good quality people getting hired. I was fortunate enough to go, about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and witness one of the new agents' graduations, and meet some of the recent graduates, and they're still impressive. There's people that go through there with doctorate degrees and actually medical doctors. There's been a couple of them that have gone through, and just incredible backgrounds, incredible people. And I was very fortunate. I spent almost 29 years, a little less than 29 years with the FBI.
Wow. And before you went to the academy, I just want to back up to your Marines. What were you doing there in the Marines?
I was an infantry officer. I was at Camp Pendleton, which when I first came out of here from Pennsylvania, as you know, the East Coast is a little bit colder, a little bit snowier,
little more
sun
miserable.
does not shine, the skies aren't blue this time of year back east. And the Marine Corps, after training, sent me out to Camp Pendleton, and I got assigned to 7th Marines, which were at Camp San Mateo on the northern half of Camp Pendleton back in the mid 80s, and fell in love with Southern California, fell in love with the weather and the lifestyle, the fitness lifestyle. And I did a couple of deployments with the infantry battalion down there overseas. It was peacetime era, not much going on. We did go to the Philippines, and we were there during the 2 months just prior to Ferdinand Marcos being overthrown by Corazon Aquino. So that was we did some patrols and stuff in the area, but it was called the People Power Revolution in the history books for many people. But it was a relatively quiet time. We did a lot of training, and we were fortunate that we weren't called to use it. And as the Marines of the last 20 plus years have been going overseas and dealing with really tough circumstances.
Wow. So fair to say that you're a good shot?
I'm a decent shot. Yes. There are folks that are better.
Okay. Well, there's always, right? In theory.
There are
So-
always folks that are better.
But you, when you were, my point was getting to when you were at Quantico, like there, if some lawyer, like if I go, I'm going to be an FBI agent and I go to apply there and I'm academically up to par and then I figure out how to run a mile and how many miles you got to run?
I think it's 1.5 miles now. It was 2 miles at the
Okay.
time.
Yeah, you
Marine
gotta-
Corps it was 3 miles.
Okay. But the Marines, I'm assuming, were much more vigorous in their,
Yes. Yeah.
in their physical and
That-
their stressful environment.
That's correct.
right. It's like hell months there. Yes.
Correct. The FBI Academy was certainly more of a low stress academy.
Okay. But, and the shooting, I'm assuming, and the techniques, the takedown techniques and the tactical type things you were doing were much easier, came more natural to you because you'd been doing it in the Marines.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So I heard that while you were at the academy, here's another fun fact about, I'm just going to tell you fun facts about Tom Brown the whole time. He does sing a great show tune, but in addition to that, he's in an award-winning movie. I heard that you were actually, and I saw you in an award-winning movie. You want to tell the listeners and watchers?
Unfortunately, I did not get any name credit on the.
It's total bullshit.
They filmed the movie Silence of the Lamb with Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins when they didn't do the Hannibal Lecter, which you're familiar with Hannibal Lecter, from what I've heard. They filmed Silence of the Lambs at the FBI Academy while my class was going through the academy. They filmed the academy scenes there. And so we got to meet the director and Jodie Foster.
Was she nice? She seems like she'd be
She
a
was
nice
nice.
person.
So the neat thing that actors, I guess, she showed up and spent a couple weeks living in the dorms at the academy with just one other person and sat in our classes, ate at the cafeteria with us before they did any filming to learn the role of a new agent trainee. So she was easily approachable and very pleasant with the folks. We didn't bother her too much, but she sat in our class. We would say hi and talk with her, and she sat at the cafeteria, with us, and talked. And she asked a lot of questions. But once they started filming, so she was there for I would say probably about 2 weeks just to do that, and then she left. And then they brought the whole crew in, and they brought the production trailers. And started filming the scenes there. And then all the production folks were not nearly as accessible, but the director and the crew, they allowed us to, watch the filming, from just behind the cameras and stuff, as long as we were quiet. If we happened to be walking by a scene that was being filmed in the library or in the gym area, and in a couple of scenes, which you're probably going to get to, and how I got in the movie. My class got in the movie. They filmed the gym scene while my class was actually training and doing some of the physical fitness stuff. It was actually called, and I think they still do something similar to that. It's called Bull in the Ring. And you have about 8 people in a circle, and they call out a number, and one person goes in the middle, and you've got boxing type gear on, and then they call out a couple other numbers, and a couple people come in there and attack you. And you've got to fend off those people. And so our class was doing that, and then they were filming her basically doing that. And so she was in a circle with actors, not the new agent trainees, but all the circles around, the circles of 8 around was my new agents class. And I happened to be in a circle close to her, so if you pause it just right, again, the VHS, the old style, not as easy to see me. It gets a little stutter, but with the new DVDs and not the new high tech, not DVDs aren't even high tech anymore. But once the DVDs came out,
How old are you?
I'm older than you.
And I'm old.
So if you just pause it just right, when they got the camera zoomed in on Jodie Foster, You can see me in the background. I'm in the center. I'm the bull in the middle of the ring.
You're bull in the ring, baby.
I'm the bull in the ring.
That should be the name of this episode.
Even with the headgear on, the boxing headgear, I think you could still tell it was me.
I could tell it was you. The way you were holding that kicking bag and stuff. Yeah, I
The
could
strike
tell.
bag, yeah.
Yeah, the strike bag. Is that what it's called?
Yes, yeah.
All right. So, all right. So the academy, you're in movies.
And
with
they
Jodie.
did the firearms scene with my class there, but they did a close up of Jodie Foster. But the rest of the stuff from our class is just 50 people online shooting, and the cameras from behind. So if you wanted to, you could count, and I could tell you which number I was on the line.
That's okay.
But we all looked alike. We all had on our academy uniform.
Got you. All right. Well, in my eyes, you're famous. So
Mine also.
clearly, no. So okay. So you're in this award-winning movie while you're in the FBI Academy, and then your career begins. Tell us about your career. What did you do? How many years were you an FBI agent?
28 and a half.
Wow. That's like longer than we've been married.
It's longer than we've been married.
Wow. Probably went by a little quicker, I'm guessing.
It went by pretty quick. All of it in the Los Angeles field office. So after the academy, I got sent back. I actually raised my hand, and at the time, this was the late 80s, there was no cost of living allowance for high cost field offices. So if you got assigned to, say, New York City or Los Angeles or San Francisco, which were high cost areas, there was no cost of living bump for being there. So you got paid the same as the folks that got sent to Oklahoma City, Columbia, South Carolina, some of the lower cost areas and stuff. So and the bigger cities, New York, Los Angeles, stuff, were always in need of agents because there's there's population base out here, so a lot more folks in the big field offices. So if you raised your hand for one of those, you typically got one. So I put my name down for Los Angeles as my first choice, first or second. I might have put San Diego down, and that I didn't get that.
Sorry. Still.
But I put Los Angeles, and I got assigned out to the Los Angeles field office, and I ended up staying out here for my entire career.
Wow. So you're out of the office. What kind of crimes have you worked as an FBI agent?
So for the first 17 years of my career, I was basically a street investigator. I worked fraud matters, white collar crime.
I'm sorry.
It was.
Did I just fall asleep?
It was challenging. So coming out of I was an infantry officer in the Marine Corps, and I wanted to go out there, and I enjoyed as we said, the physical activities and going out and making arrests. And my first assignment was to a white collar crime squad in Orange County, and it was at the time of we were investigating a lot of savings and loans, the savings and loans industry.
Like the Bernie Madoff stuff.
It was kind of like the Bernie Madoff. The biggest case that Orange County was working when I got here was Charles Keating. So some folks can look back on the record books on that, and the Keating Five. It was very politically connected fraud case with the savings and loan, Lincoln Savings and Loan.
Charles Keating was the one who commissioned the pornography thing for Nixon in the Making of the Deep Throat series. That whole movie.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
And I didn't get involved in that, but when they were building up that case and they had a number of people assigned to it, I ended up picking up some of the more senior agents, their cases, and other less expansive white collar crime cases, and I got assigned to those, and I was on that squad for about 3 years. And like you said, it was a little slower. You don't go out and arrest somebody right away. You would subpoena records, and they would come. Now they come on a little hard drive or something like that. Flash drive, whatever, all that technology, flash drive. But you would subpoena records, and then you'd have to wait several months, and then all of a sudden these big bankers boxes would show up, or they'd tell you, come pick them up. And you'd get these big bankers boxes full of records. And then the next step that you were supposed to do was go through those records and find evidence of the crime. And I will tell you, I just, it wasn't
your strong suit.
It wasn't my strong suit. It wasn't thrilling to me, particularly at that period of my life. I wanted to go out and do things. So, I'd start looking through those records, and somebody would come by and say, hey, we're looking for this fugitive, and we need some help. We think he's in this area. Can you come out and help? And I'd go out and help on surveillances, arrests. Anytime somebody would come by, I'd raise my hand and anything to get out of looking through those boxes.
Okay.
But I certainly learned to appreciate, and I had some good cases in those 3 years I worked, but I was ready to move on. But I had some friends who worked those cases for 20 plus years, and they were phenomenal. They were so aggressive, as investigators, and they would just go through those records and just find that one little clue in there, in that record, find something in this record, and be able to put together these really significant high dollar fraud cases.
Wow.
And they certainly were stronger at that than I was. But I did have a couple of fun cases while I was working that. But
So then what'd you do once you got rid of the boring assignment? I'm just summarizing for you.
I got assigned to a violent crime major offenders. They call it VICMO, violent crime major offenders case. Which
VICMO?
was VICMO. VCMO.
VICMO.
But it was a reactive squad. So unlike the fraud cases, which the crime had already occurred, and now you're kind of backtracking and trying to prove what actually occurred, that it was a fraud, not just a bad business deal. The reactive squad, the violent crime squad, we would respond to crimes that were just occurring, predominantly bank robberies. The Southern California area, Los Angeles area, was the bank robbery capital of the world in the early 90s. We had some years well in excess within the Los Angeles field office of 2,700, I think, was our biggest year. Orange County had years of over 400 robberies in Orange County alone. Bank robberies.
Who knew there were so many bank robbers rolling around?
It was a crazy time, and I mean, there were days that I would respond to within Orange County. I think the most I ever responded to was up to 6 robberies in one day. It was a crazy time. We would have, and then sometimes you'd have folks in custody on that, where a police officer would be responding and arrest them, and then you start interviewing them, putting the case together, and going from there. So I enjoyed that. It was a lot faster pace. I did that. We also, within the violent crime squad, any kidnappings, extortions, those type of cases that would come up.
Did you work on any interesting kidnapping cases?
I worked on a few. Mostly the ones that are most memorable to me are ones where I helped out and was part of either the arrest team. I was on scene for I think 7 or 8 individuals where we recovered the kidnapped victims, and those were pretty memorable moments. Although my memory isn't quite as strong as it is now, but those were pretty neat things when we recovered those victims and got them back to their families. I was never the specific case agent on it, and when those cases would come in, everybody, a particular kidnapping type case, everybody that's available, all hands on deck, start working it, and you've got people working different aspects of it. So,
and it doesn't matter if you're an agent versus okay, so I know your title is special agent, and you probably don't even listen to my podcast, but because you hear my stories all day long when I tell them to you. But I was teasing one time in trial. I had a FBI agent. I think I told you about it when it happened. One of your buddies was who I didn't know, but I asked you if you knew him. He was on my witness list. He was an FBI agent. When he took the stand in the Terry Shields case, I asked you ahead of time if he was had a good sense of humor. And so when he took the stand, because state court's less formal than federal court by a long shot.
Yes.
And when he said he was a special agent with the FBI, in response to my "what's your occupation" question, and I said, "What's so special about you?" And you should have seen his face. He had no idea how to answer that. He's like, "Well, nothing really." So why do they call you special agents? I mean, I think it's cool. I like it. He's a special agent with the FBI, but what does that mean?
So special agent in government terms, it could be at the federal level or the state level. It basically means you have arrest authority. So you're sworn law enforcement officer. So unlike your local State Farm insurance agent,
Oh, he's not a special agent.
He's not a special agent.
He's just an agent.
So special agent, there are IRS agents that solely are auditors and stuff like that. And then there are IRS special agents who can actually arrest people for the criminal violation.
Oh, good to know.
So special is just a term given to sworn law enforcement officers
that have arrest powers.
that have arrest powers, yes.
See? Don't say I never taught you anything. It's fascinating.
So I am special. I was special.
Well, Tom-
I'm no longer special.
You no longer have that title.
No longer have that title.
Well, you are special, but
Thank you.
okay, for other reasons other than your occupation. So now you're doing these bank robberies. Now, was that on the SWAT team or was that just as a special agent?
So, in about my third year in, I tried out for the Los Angeles FBI SWAT team. And a lot of folks don't really understand how SWAT works, but most large police departments and federal agencies have some particular tactical teams that are used for their high risk arrests, high risk search warrants, those type of things. So the FBI Los Angeles has a team, a SWAT team that's comprised of agents from throughout the field offices. Collateral duty. They train, a certain number of days a month. Back in the day when I got on the team, we were only training 2 days a month, and then which isn't a lot. And now I think they're training about 1 week a year, and it was getting close to that by the time I got off the team.
1 week a year.
I'm sorry, 1 week a month, 4 to 5 days a month of training time. And so I got on the team, and so that gave me the opportunity to be involved in some of the most significant cases throughout the field office. So it wasn't something I had to be working. It didn't have to be in Orange County. It was a lot of the major gang takedowns that would happen up in Los Angeles. Any of the high risk arrests, kidnappings in particular, like if they had a location that the victim might be at, we would go out there and try to do, recover the victim, hopefully safely. And so with that, I got involved in a number of cases that were very successful on that were worked by other agents throughout the field office that were put together.
Wow. Okay. How long were you on the SWAT team?
I was on the SWAT team for 10 years on a full-time status, and then I helped out for a few years afterwards if they need it. We called it the Gold Team, which was also known as the Old Team, and we had a number of folks who had stepped down from because for a variety of reasons, no longer wanted to be committed to training 4 to 5 days a month and go into all those operations. And we would help out on major takedowns when they needed extra hands. And we wouldn't do entries, but we would work on the perimeter and stuff so that they had people who knew what they were doing close in instead of folks who weren't trained with them.
Wow. And you were a team leader on SWAT?
I was a team leader. I was one of the assault team leaders. So I had 8 other operators that were part of my team. And I'm team leader for probably about five years or so by time on the team.
Wow. And when you were on the SWAT team, you said that you worked some major cases. Were there a ton of different cases that you worked?
Oh, there were. So the years for those for SWAT operations, we were usually getting close to 100 operations a year, and I wouldn't respond to all of them. Sometimes they would only need like 2 of our assault teams instead of all 5. We had about 40 plus operators on the team, somewhere in that neighborhood. Sometimes you wouldn't need that many depending upon what was going on. We would do protective details when the FBI director was in town or the Attorney General of the United States was in town. We would do details for them. And just a variety of fun things. But my first big operation, this was a kidnapping one, and we recovered. So I got on the team. My crew, I think we had 11 new trained SWAT operators. And one of our first major cases was a kidnapping that occurred in Santa Barbara, and the victim was missing for about 2 weeks, and they were getting calls in for, extorting money, trying to get the money delivered and stuff like that. And it was in a very wealthy, affluent area of Santa Barbara County. The victim was a 19-year-old who was, I think, was just getting ready to start his freshman year. It was in September of, I believe, 92. And going back to the technical thing, so we had tech agents that were working the case, and they were trying to trap the phone calls. So they had to trap and trace was one of the old techniques when people would use landlines, right? Nobody has phones to their homes anymore, but you would call would come in, and you would trap it and try and track back where did the call come from, and you could identify a location. So as they were doing that, there were multiple phone calls that had come in over about a 2-week period, and they were, as they start working up these addresses for our SWAT team to hit, we were constantly getting ready, and then the case agents would say, it's not a good address. And they couldn't figure out initially they couldn't figure out how they were identifying or why these calls were coming back to these houses that had nothing to do with the case. And then it turned out that the subjects were using those call boxes that are at the corner of every street, down there, that has all the phone lines that come into the houses in your neighborhood. And this was a very rural area, so they were kind of like in these wooded areas, and there were no sidewalks and stuff like that. So we ended up sitting on like two-man teams out on all these little call boxes over a several square mile area in Santa Barbara County, waiting for somebody to come in there, plug into the call box, and make another call. And from that, we ended up identifying, somebody saw a vehicle, and then we pulled the whole team together, and we ended up recovering the victim that night.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a pretty neat case, and the tech agents, a lot of people did a phenomenal job on that. And that was I think we had finished training earlier that summer, and this was September, and that was our first big case that I was involved with.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, I want to hear more, but we're out of time for this episode.
All right.
I want to hear more about your illustrious career and how you brought light to the family of that young 19-year-old boy, right, who was in college. Can you imagine your son's kidnapped? And thank God that the FBI was there to rescue him and come up with that plan to figure out who was making those phone calls. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me. And
yeah, well, you're coming back for the next episode. All right.
I look forward to telling you some more.
Yeah, you'll be back to tell some more stories because there's more to unpack here.
There is.
Tom Brown, FBI. All right. Well, thank you for all that you do. All right. We're out of time for today. So until you see Tom Brown on the next episode, if you can't find the light, be the light. And you know who came up with that tagline? Tom Brown, FBI. That was all his idea. So if you hate it, it was on him. And if you love it,
I think they all love it.
I might have inspired him to come up with it. I'm just saying.
It's because I look at you and you're my light. So.
Oh, now we're all going to go throw up. All right. I mean, thank you. Thank you, baby. That was the sweetest.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next time. Until then, be the light.